Want to talk a little bit here about the Lincoln Project. Those who have followed my show for a long time or have paid any attention at all to the Lincoln Project know exactly what they are. They're right-wing grifters. They're also quite like racist, and they also covered up for a groomer who was a top member of the Lincoln Project. He was like grooming teenage boys and sexually assaulting them. And the Lincoln Project covered up for this. Emails revealed that. They're just like awful, awful people, war criminals. They worked in the Reagan administration, Bush Sr., Bush Jr. administrations. Awful people. And they also, it was very obvious from the jump what they were actually doing. They figured out that Trump was a moneymaker. So what they would do is, like, if they actually wanted to impact elections, they would have gone to the swing states, correct? But they, like, one example, they put up a huge billboard in New York City about Trump. So what are you really doing? You're trying to market to liberals so that they'll donate to you. You're grifting. You're taking money from liberals to say Orange Man bad. I mean, it's so simple, and it's sad that people fall for it, but it's so simple. And then they would turn around and they would spend a lot of that money on consulting firms and shit like that they were part owners in, or that their associates ran, or it was just rank corruption and grifting. This is what they've done from the jump. And I think this whole time what they have wanted to do in a bigger picture sense is earn some trust with the quote unquote liberals, the MSNBC crowd. And you can do that now just by saying Trump bad. All of a sudden they'll love you, right? So I think they wanted to earn a little bit of trust there and then use that to pull that crowd towards the right-wing policies. Seems pretty obvious and straightforward, and it's astounding to me that more people, or that so many people, fell for their shenanigans and donated to them anyway. This is in The Guardian. Lincoln Project members pose as white supremacists at Virginia GOP event. 5 members carried tiki torches at a campaign stop for Glenn Youngkin, the Republican candidate for Virginia governor. So they basically were caught in a false flag here, you guys. Hilarious. The Lincoln Project has confirmed it was behind a political stunt in which 5 members posed as white supremacists carrying tiki torches at a campaign stop for Glenn Youngkin, the Republican candidate for governor in Virginia and Charlottesville ahead of Election Day next week. Members of the anti-Trump Republican group stood in front of Youngkin's campaign bus on Friday wearing T-shirts, khaki pants, and sunglasses. They were attempting to evoke an infamous far-right torch-lit march at the University of Virginia in August 2017, a day before a self-described neo-Nazi killed a counter-protester with his car. As the Lincoln Project mounted the stunt, jurors in a civil lawsuit over the rally were beginning to hear testimony. Days ahead of polling day in a state where Joe Biden beat Donald Trump by 10 points last year, McAuliffe and Youngkin are neck and neck. Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Barack Obama, and other senior Democrats have turned out for McAuliffe. And if you guys haven't seen those clips, it is just as cringeworthy and nauseating as you would expect. Fearing defeat might foreshadow reverses in next year's midterm elections. In comments to NBC 29 after the incident, but before the Lincoln Project claimed responsibility, Youngkin said he thought his opponent, Terry McAuliffe, a former Virginia governor seeking to return to the role, had sent the men. Quote, "They'll do anything to win," he said, and he's doing anything to win. And so he's paying people to show up and act silly at our rallies. Now, notice what the Lincoln Project has actually done here. They've actually helped Youngkin quite a bit. And listen, I could honestly, like, this race means virtually nothing to me because Terry McAuliffe is so fucking awful. Okay. Youngkin, I'm sure, is terrible too, but Terry McAuliffe is, like, I mean, he's right-wing corporatist Democrat. And Virginia, by the way, even though they are a light blue state, have some of the worst labor and employment laws in the country, some of the worst economic results in terms of like the wealth gap and things like that. So they've fully embraced the woke left policy stuff while entirely neglecting any economic progressivism. And that's exactly what Terry McAuliffe is. Like, exactly what Terry McAuliffe is. So I really could give a fuck about this race. I could give a fuck about it. But this story is fascinating because the Lincoln Project, there's something about them that I have to cover them when they do shit like this. They just rub me so wrong. And I think this is also like a warning to other groups that might consider similar conduct. because look what's actually now what dynamic have they now created? Youngkin now gets to do the Trump thing, right? And see, they're so corrupt, they're so this and that. So now he gets to flip it on McAuliffe and say, look at all these liberals, right? So it's a warning in basic strategy not to do this kind of nonsense, and it's laughable and pathetic anyway. But not the kind of shit that you want to engage in if you actually have your sights set on winning an election. And again, the Lincoln Project don't support these kinds of groups. You guys, awful, 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 and not at all like even liberal. They're just out and out right wing. So part of me actually thinks maybe this is like maybe there's two layers to this false flag. Maybe they did it on purpose, and now they get to help Youngkin while pretending that they're trying to help McCall. I don't even know. It just they're so crazy and out there, and I don't know. It's I just was. It actually kind of disheartened me to see as little faith as I have in the cable news crowd, the MSNBC crowd, the liberals, the Democrats, etc. It just on a human level, it so disheartened me to see how easily they were duped into supporting anything that was perceived as anti-Trump. That just became a dividing line, like a cultural conflict dividing line, where if you said Trump bad, if you said Orange Man bad, it didn't matter like who you were or what you believed or what you'd done. Didn't matter. They would all adore you, right? We rehabilitated George W. Bush. And believe like it was during Bush's presidency that I started to pay any attention to politics at all. And I remember, you guys, the liberals felt about Bush not quite how they felt about Trump, but like Bush was hated even by partisan Democrats. Like he was hated. And then as soon as he said some critical things of Trump, rehabilitate George W. Bush, right? So I was disheartened by how easy it was to dupe human beings into horrific beliefs and supporting bad actors and grifters just by saying Orange Man bad. And perhaps I'm naive in that sentiment, but it was very discouraging to me for a litany of reasons. So I mentioned